They called him a legend, but his final act was never filmed. Now his yacht drifts in silence, haunted by whispers, shadows, and an unfinished script. This is the chilling true story of the Duke, and why he never left the Silver Cross. They say the ocean holds secrets far deeper than its waters, and few stories echo through its salty winds like that of the late Hollywood legend Edward the Duke Halberd, a man whose charm once dominated the silver screen and whose ghost, many believe, never left his prized possession's Silver Cross, a 1-for-5-foot luxury yacht moored off the coast of Catalina Island. I first heard whispers of the haunting during an exclusive documentary shoot, where I was hired to direct a retrospective on the Duke's life, invited by his estranged granddaughter, Ava, a troubled heiress trying to resurrect her family's crumbling legacy by hosting elite parties aboard the same vessel where the Duke reportedly spent his final days drunk, paranoid, and obsessed with unfinished work. And though the yacht had long been refitted with the finest modern technology, it felt unmistakably frozen in the 1960s, with the air thick as bourbon, reeking of stale cigars and faded stardom, the crew and guests murmuring about doors slamming, moans in the walls, and a gramophone that played the same scratched Duke record "You Always Hurt the One You Love" at 2:14 a.m. every single night, without power or explanation, which they laughed off until I saw it for myself on the second night aboard, when my camera guy, Rami, jolted awake in his bunk below deck, claiming he'd heard raspy whispering in his ear, only to find a damp handprint on the inside of his lens case. And when we checked the footage, it had captured 5 seconds of what looked like the Duke standing shirtless in one of the mirrors, an image matching an old publicity still from 1967, down to the chest scar from a boating accident. Yet there was no mirror on that wall, just a rusted pipe and a flaking photograph of Ava's mother, the Duke's daughter, who died mysteriously in 1972 while swimming off the coast of Portofino. Shaken but intrigued, we kept filming, despite the mounting unease, especially after Ava confessed the yacht had been kept in dry dock for decades because Dad used to scream in his sleep about a voice in the hull. And though she thought it was dementia, she admitted that the last caretaker disappeared during a solo inspection in 2011. His body never found, only his boot wedged in a hatch near the engine room, which was exactly where we'd later hear a rhythmic knocking coming from behind welded steel, too consistent to be mechanical and too eerie to be ignored. So one night, I descended into the engine room alone, armed with a GoPro and a naive confidence, only to be overwhelmed by the sudden, overpowering scent of cedar smoke and the faint hum of an old movie projector, which shouldn't have been running, let alone even present. Yet, when I turned a corner, there it was, flickering against a tattered white sheet, hung like a shrine, replaying an old black and white scene of the Duke walking down a hallway. Only, the hallway was ours, on the yacht, shot from the exact angle I'd just passed, meaning Sumiani or something had filmed me seconds earlier. And though I ran up those stairs as fast as my shaking legs would carry me, I could still hear a deep, gravelly voice calling out from below, "You're not done filming yet, kid," which I tried to brush off as exhaustion until Ava, pale and stiff with fear, told me it was the same line the Duke had said to his assistant the day before he died of heart failure on that very deck, just minutes after shouting at the waves about a script someone had stolen from his cabin. A script no one ever found until we did, stuffed inside a sealed wine locker behind a false wall in the lounge, perfectly preserved and handwritten in the Duke's bold scrawl. But the final scene was missing, torn cleanly from the binder. And that night, during a thunderstorm that wasn't in the forecast, the gramophone played again, louder this time, echoing through the entire vessel as every door slammed shut in unison, trapping the guests in their cabins and locking me, Ava, and Rami in the lounge with that script in our hands, and a shadowy figure seated in the corner armchair where no one had sat all week, puffing on an invisible cigar, exhaling smoke that danced like celluloid film. and as lightning illuminated the yacht in electric bursts, we realized the man wasn't a man at all, but a hollow-eyed echo of fame, flickering like a dying reel, watching us with that same half-smirk the Duke wore in his final film before production. Was abruptly halted due to the curse he joked about during interviews, though now it didn't feel like a joke at all, especially when Rami collapsed, seizing violently while screaming, "Don't shoot the ending." He never finished the ending, and Ava dropped the script, which burst into flame without consuming the paper, just glowing red with heat as the voice growled, "If I didn't get a final cut, no one does." And the next morning, after the yacht mysteriously returned to harbor, without ever starting its engine, a confirmed by Doc Camerazeva, refused to speak publicly again, moving to a convent in Sicily, while I spent months in therapy. My footage corrupted and warped with static and looping whispers, and Rami, well, he never filmed again. He just carves wooden yachts in a psychiatric ward and cries every time he hears a gramophone, whispering that the Duke's still writing, still directing, still haunting, because the Silver Cross was never just a boat, it was a stage, a prison, a coffin, and some legends don't fade into the past. They anchor themselves to the living, rolling like tides, waiting for the next audience to scream. Some stars fade, but the Duke still watches from the shadows of his yacht. If you ever hear a gramophone at sea, don't answer it. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay cautious, and never sail alone at night. Hit like, subscribe, and comment below if you dare board the Silver Cross yourself.